Hello and welcome to Full Time Score with your host TC Ramokhwas. Yo, it's been a minute since I last did this video. It's been a very dark period in South African football because there wasn't much football, so it's been dark and it's been a dark, cold winter. So for those reasons, there hasn't been much happening. So yeah, but anyway, I'm back. It's a new season. It's still the same me. Haircut, everything. I haven't changed much. I'm not gonna change much. I've had more or less the same thing going for about 10 years now, so it's not happened much. But anyway, thank you for watching, first of all, and please do like the video. Secondly, please subscribe to the channel. I'm really trying to make an effort to try to get to 100 subscribers by the end of this month. So yeah, I'm gonna try to release at least a video a week minimum, max 2 or 3 depending on breaking news, etc. And yeah, with that said, I want to start this video by going, I'm having 3 sections in today's video. First segment, I really want to start off talking about the preseason period in the PSL, what I think about it, what I saw. Secondly, I'm going to talk about the big game at Full Loftus Fastfield between Mamelodi, Sundowns and Kaizer Chiefs. And then the third segment, I want to talk about Orlando Pirates against Chippa United, but I think I'm going to focus more on the Pirates side of things. Yeah, that happened at Orlando Stadium on Sunday afternoon. Let's start off with of course, the preseason. Yo, yeah, I mentioned the word dark period because it's very dark. I mean, football generally, in our football calendar, the PSL ends in May, and then in same thing as in the European calendar, May, June, it's finished. There's no football throughout June, and then football restarts again in July in Europe with club friendlies. You see your Real Madrids, your Barcelonas, your AC Milans, your Man United, Man Cities, Liverpools, etc. traveling all around the world, playing different friendlies with different teams from different countries, sometimes playing each other in the same league in those friendlies across the world. And with the PSL, there's none of that. All the clubs seem to prefer a closed practice match or closed doors friendly. I don't know what they call it, but there's something like that. I'm not a fan of that, but anyway, they prefer that, which then for me makes me sit and question a lot of stuff. Why not question the marketing aspect of it? Because if you are supporting, an example, Kaizer Chiefs, who released a whole host of players and brought in a whole new host of players with a new coach, as a supporter of the club, you really want to go to the stadium and actually see what the club is doing. And the only way you can actually do that is the club plays a competitive friendly against whoever. But they don't do that. Same as Sundowns didn't do it. Orlando Pirates didn't do it. And that for me is poor marketing, because there's this drive to try to get us fans back into the stadium, but there isn't an effort to do it. The only way you're going to get fans back in the stadium is not by showing us nice kids and nice, wicked, like some really kick-ass videos. I'm not going to lie, man. Some clubs, like especially Kaizer Chiefs, on their social media accounts, man, they got some kick-ass videos. Like the introduction for Coach Arthur's one, man, that was a kick-ass video, man. Oh, that was cool. If only they could play as cool like that, man, that would be something different. But those types of things, really, man, they don't really entice a purist like me. I'm a football fan. I want to watch teams play. I don't care if the kit looks nice if I pass a store in the mall, but I want to actually see the kit look nice on the players playing. I want to see the kit on billiard or actually the player, you want to see that. But anyway, PSL has its ways. So there were no club friendly, so we had to literally wait till the kickoff of the season, which is very tedious. It's a tedious wait, no matter which way you look at it. And it makes me question the leadership of the clubs. Why aren't you guys organizing friendlies? I understand there's an economic side of it, but why aren't you organizing friendlies? Why? What's the reason behind that? I'd really like to understand. Also, we had, when I was growing up, I grew up in an era where we had something called the Telkom Charity Cup, where we, the fans, would use the sponsor and call, and then we'd vote for 4 teams to play each other in a one-day tournament. That was probably one of the nicest things ever. It was actually a proper Saturday with my friends growing up. We also then, in the past, had a Vodacom challenge. Initially, the challenge was between 4 teams, 2 teams from Africa. You had your Asante Kotokos, I think a TP Mazembe once or so. You had teams from Africa coming to play against Chiefs and Pirates, and then there'll be a final. And it was usually a 2-week tournament, and it was interesting, and it was actually very nice. Back then, all of that stopped. Then after, we had this, for me, the most ridiculous cup in the history of cups, the Colin Black Label Cup, where the fans vote for the team. We like that. There's another tournament like that that's coming at some point this season. I don't know. It's amateurish. It's very amateurish. It's not something I think a professional league that boasts to be one of the best in the world should be doing. Not for me. Anyway, we have those things. They're unique to South Africa. Whether that's good or bad, figure it out. But we have those things. Excuse me. We have such things. And we don't have preseason friendlies. The only thing I saw before the season started was the KZN Premier Cup between the KZN teams. That's a nice gesture for the province because you can see a lot of KZN teams and they're doing quite well. Really, Mamazulu, they've been doing quite well recently. You know, Golden Arrows also did well 2 seasons back. So why not? Richards Bay are now in the PSL, so congrats to them. So we're seeing a lot of good development coming through from the KZN province now. Gone are the days where KZN players had to move from KZN to Joburg to try get game time and try get recognition. The clubs are right there at your doorstep. They're there. It's a pity what they've done to the Free State. There's no Free State teams anymore. Anyway, but that was the only tournament, and there was also the tournament with the not the Disky Shield, not Varsity Shield, but Disky Shield. But that's really not a club tournament. That's for junior players. Then there was the Kasi to Kasi football tournament that was running around. Very good, but amateur players, semi-professional players. So our professional teams were on holiday. It seemed like in terms of playing club friendlies, they were on holiday, but they were practicing. And the reason why I'm complaining for 5 minutes is that I feel that you need to get the teams on a competitive environment, actually at a stadium, so that you can start seeing the combinations also as a coach. Or how am I going to play this season? Who am I going to combine? And also get the players up to scratch with the preparations for the tournament. Yes, it's one thing to practice at the facility and run, play, do ball work, do technical work, play a close game friendly with whoever. But it's a completely different ball game to actually when you're in it. It's like I'm a World War II buff. I love World War II stories, and I watch a lot of these documentaries. And they always talk about, whenever you see these war veterans go, and they talked about how intense the training was until they actually got to Normandy on the 6th of June 1944. They actually ran onto the beach and they heard the guns from the Germans. Like, then they actually went, wow, yeah, this is war, you know. So until you're actually in it, you need to, you won't be prepared for it. So back to the point of football. Until you run onto a football pitch, you actually aren't prepared. You can train all you want. You can watch as much video analysis. You can hear fancy speeches from Kuranu Mukwena and all these fancy coaches. But until you actually play football, you're not going to get up to scratch. And that's probably where I think the PSL teams are missing it. They are missing it from that perspective by not organizing competitive friendlies that fans can actually come and watch, and the coach can actually watch his team and make his combinations and change the starting 11 and play this 11 like they do in Europe. That's why the guys in Europe, when they play match week 1, when you watch the Community Shield or you watch the first week of the English Premier League, you start seeing these guys are at a high level from day one. And with us, it's a slow burner. But it picks up, and it's picking up well. So I can give them credit, but it's something that I think should be looked into. Then again, we've got dinosaur leadership in the country in terms of football, so what's going to happen? But I'll say this, it's been an interesting league so far. I've seen the likes of TS Galaxy. I'm surprised. I thought they're going to be a relegation candidate. But so far they've started well. Really, they've continued where they left from last season. They got a very, very good coach. A coach I highly rate in Dan Malesela alongside Kabozondo. They got those guys, and yeah, it should be an interesting period for them. So, which then leads me to the Kaizer Chiefs Mamelodi Sundowns game at Loftus Versford. Let's talk about Chiefs. Context. Kaizer Chiefs last season, things didn't work out. They got rid of Baxter. End of the season, they didn't waste time. Immediately after the season ended, they got on into it. And that's good. That goes to show something. They didn't wait. They actually got on top of it. They appointed our coach Athazwani with that kick-ass video I mentioned. You should really watch that. That's really proper. They appointed him as the new head coach, a local player who a legend of the club, 10-111. He coached in the multi-choice Disky Challenge team. Now they're giving him an opportunity to come up. So yeah, he got his chance. It's his chance. And now above that, the thing that I did, and you have to go back on my channel for more context, because they actually did what I said. Not to say I don't want to take credit. No, thank you. But I mentioned this in a video after they fired Baxter. I did a video almost immediately when they fired Baxter. And I mentioned a lot of stuff. And they kind of did some of that stuff. They appointed Arthur Zwani. Then they got rid of a lot of the older players. Bernard Parker, Samir Nokovic, Amahlum Pahlela, Agai, Lazarus Gambole. Yeah, there was quite a host of players they got rid of. I think they only retained of the really old guard, Itumeleng Khune and Eric Mator. That's probably the only two players they retained in the club who were still actual players of the club. And that's good. After that, they signed a lot of good players as well. Obviously, Ashley Dupree being the main marquee signing, in my opinion. Obviously, they brought in Yusuf Mart, who had a good season of Skukuna, former Pirates development player. They brought in George Matlo. They brought in, I believe, Kabelo Mahlasela, Kwinika, Solomons, Dylan Solomons. They brought in some younger guys mostly from Swallows and also from Skukune. And they brought them in. And a lot of people question that those players are from lesser teams and they've been brought by Kaizer Chiefs. But I always say, I saw this with Sundowns. Kholiso Mdars from Black Leopards who got relegated. And he's the best right back in the country, in my opinion, right now. Then again, that's my opinion. But it doesn't really matter where you buy the players from. As long as they fit into your system, as long as they fit into what you want to do, it really doesn't matter. I don't think it matters, And equally, it's up to the player to actually sit down and work hard and improve when he's there. Not what you're seeing at Man United, there where the players have been bought, but none of them want to improve. They're just happy to be at Man United. They're happy to be making, hundreds and thousands of pounds per week, and happy to have all the suave of playing for a great football club. But it's up to the players to improve. And if Yusuf Mart can improve, if Dylan Solomons can improve, if Matlo can keep doing what he's doing, hey, Chiefs have done brilliantly, Anyway, leading up, they played their first game, Kaizer Chiefs, against Royal AM. They lost 1-0. Then they beat Maritzburg United 3-0, impressively. And I want to talk about that game and I want to bring it here. That game showed to me the identity that Kaizer Chiefs are now undertaking. The identity is they're going to be a high-press team. They're going to really be intense, which is part of modern-day football. Another thing that I picked up in that game was at the front, they had not Solomons, but I want to say Dupree on the left, Billard through the middle, on the right, Dolly. And they were interchanging these guys. So at one moment, you'd find Dupree running through the middle and Billard is on the left, or he's on the right and Dolly's on the left. Randomly, you'd find the others, the opposite of it. Dolly's through the middle, this one's on the right, that one's on the left. And I like that. It shows a bit of tactical awareness. At certain moments, they can just do that and just confuse the defense and confuse the coaches of the opponents on the side. I actually liked that on Wednesday. Another thing I picked up on Wednesday, which I really liked, was that player, George Matlo. He was the one midfielder at Kaizer Chiefs who I thought was doing the thing that Kaizer Chiefs have been lacking for a very long time. And that's actually creativity from the midfield. Someone who's actually going to play forward passes. Someone who's actually going to put his foot on the ball and try to get Billard in the game, try to get Dolly in the game, and try to get, in this case nowadays, Ashley Dupree in the game. And he was doing that well. Unfortunately, picked up an injury, which ruled him out for Saturday. Ashley Dupree picks up an injury. That rules him out for Saturday as well. So already Chiefs are 2 men down, 2 key players down, already going into a huge game, which I thought was going to be the acid test. Now, I'm going to say this. With Kaizer Chiefs, regardless of what happens, if they win, whether they lose, there will always be an overreaction. That comes with being a big club. That comes with being a fan of a big club. And that comes with being an actual player of a big club, is that regardless of what you do, a player could trap a ball, which is something every player in the world gets paid to do. And there will be an overreaction by every fan in the country because it's a Chiefs player. That's part of the game. You have to be able to handle it positively or negatively. And Kaizer Chiefs were very excited going into Saturday's match. Were they realistic? No. Were they unrealistic? Yeah, but it's part of being a fan. Part of being sports is being delusional. That's why we love sports, right? But they were very excited going into Saturday's fixture. Rightly so, because Sundowns, on the other hand, have had a slower start. Again, it goes back pre-season. These players need to actually play some football. Not do practice matches, but actual competitive friendlies to actually find their feet. Think about the guns in Normandy every time I say that. Think about June 6, 1944, D-Day, Normandy. Think about that. Anyway, I thought Sundowns started slow. Against Cape Town City, they were very good. They were very effective. They didn't play 100%, but they still won. Against TX Galaxy, they came up against the low block. Struggled. They lost. And then they had to go to Saturday, and before Saturday, Orlando made mention that they're underdogs. Now, I think that was just a way to motivate the fans and motivate the players that, hey, they won their match 3. No, you guys lost your match, so you guys are underdogs. I just think it was basically more of motivation than actually anything. And Saturday rolls in. Friday, I get a message telling me, hey, man, look, tickets are sold out. Not like I was gonna make it, but yeah, man, game was sold out. Okay, and which is always a good advert for South African football. I wish more games would sell out, not just Chiefs and Sundowns or Chiefs and Pirates or Pirates and Sundowns, but all games should sell out. I wish, but we all know the product of the PSL. And Saturday starts. Now, before that, I want to say Sundowns pulled a sneaky move. Out of the blue, the chairman of Mamelodi Sundowns comes down from his usual seat up there. He comes and makes an announcement before the game, and he announces that Sundowns have signed Bongani Zungu, and he unveils him right there at the stadium in front of the home support. And Sundowns fans are already going mad. Already, they're just on another level, and the atmosphere goes up. It's a genius move, if you ask me. Also, it's a bit of a coy and a shot and a pot shot at Kaizer Chiefs. And I'm bringing that into this because Kaizer Chiefs were linked to Zungu for how long? They were linked, but I don't know what happened. It fell through. Usually does. It's Kaizer Chiefs. Most of the transfers always fall through, especially when it's a big player, and especially if Sundowns sniff around it. And for them to announce that before the game against Chiefs in front of the Chiefs supporters and the Sundowns supporters, that was sneaky. Kind of a bit of genius, but it got the Sundowns fans absolutely going before the game started. Now, once you're playing away from home and you're the away team, and not to say Chiefs didn't have supporters, Chiefs had majority of the supporters they normally do wherever they go in South Africa. You do not need to be making mistakes within the first 5 minutes of the game to actually allow the home team to score and get that crowd that's already absolutely buzzing more on their side. And the way Chiefs conceded was very, very poor from them because it's a miscontrolled pass and a pass and another pass that goes to the keeper, and then Serena just scores. Now, it's good from Sundowns because Chiefs scored the same type of goal against Maritzburg United. It's weird how Chiefs supporters want to say, hey, that was a great goal on Tuesday. Then they concede the same goal, like, but Sundowns got lucky. No. It can't work the other way. You guys on Tuesday, Chiefs, Billiard was pressing King Ndlovu and Makume very well to get that second goal for for Dolly rather. He pressed the keeper and the keeper made a mistake and he got the goal. And the ball went to Dolly and Dolly scored the goal. Good goal because good pressing, modern day football. Sundowns did the same thing. Guinika had the ball. He was pressed by Peter Shalule. He passes across. He gets pressed by Gaston Sereno presses Ngeza. Siyabonga Ngeza miscontrols the ball, which then allows Sereno to make up at least 3 steps, and he's quite quick, Sereno. And the back pass to Bruce Vuma is short. What does Sereno do? He gets the ball, puts it in the back of the net. 1-0 Sundowns within the first 5 minutes. Back foot already for Chiefs. The Sundowns supporters I've mentioned, they're just going crazy. From a Chiefs perspective, it's disaster. It's D-Day. It's a disaster. For Sundowns, bang. Good start, right? Sundowns are not playing well. I have to say that. Sundowns were not playing well, but Chiefs were playing very well. And I'll talk about Chiefs now. Chiefs were playing very well, but the biggest problem with Kaizer Chiefs was that they were not creating enough. It goes back to see that the effect of the absence of George Matlo and also the absence of Ashley Dupré played a role, because Dupre's pace was going to give Mamelodi Sundowns big problems. Equally, I think the lack of a player to put his foot on that ball and pass it into key positions, to advanced positions. Mart was playing deep and he was trying long diagonal balls. Now, they look fancy when they land. When they don't land and they're not effective, it's not fancy. This is not 2009. And Yusuf Mart is not Xabi Alonso from when he was playing at Liverpool. He's not that player. He can do it, but he's just not. Come on, really? Anyway, point is, Chiefs needed an 8 to do that. They brought in Kosingi Pilemngobo. Second half, didn't work. But the point was, they've got 3 midfielders. They had Cole Alexandra, they had Yusuf Mart, and they had Sithe. To me, those players are very similar in terms of skill set. They are all sort of sixes, your typical sixes. I don't want to say defensive midfielder, but they're they can all be box to box, but their natural ability is not to attack. They are not natural creative players. They're not going to find a space and create a goal out of that. They'll do that, yeah, but it's not their natural thing. Their natural thing is to more or less sit back and screen the defense. Now, the two of them can work. I see a Mart. Mart should play for me all season. Mart and Sithe, I think, should be the two two sixes or the double six for Kaizer Chiefs. One should be box to box, the other should stay. But they're gonna need a creative link. They're gonna need that 8 or that 10 who's gonna play behind the strikers, the front three, to be the guy who actually creates the passes, the advanced forward passes. If you take it to the opposition, they have 2 players on the other side that were doing that. Neo Mayema, and also another Zwane, Temba Zwane. Mayema, second goal, the penalty. Ball is one in midfield. Mayema turns, plays it between 2 Chiefs players like that. It's a pass. Shalule making what they call a cross-field route. If you watch NFL, he's running across. He's got Ngezana right over his shoulder. He's running across. He gets the ball to his feet. And as he's running, something happens. I guess Ngezana kind of touched him and Shalule just fell. Penalty. To me, it's a penalty. Fair penalty. And Shalule puts it away. The Chiefs lacked that. That pass that goes into a billiard's feet. That pass that goes to a dolly's feet in a position where you can actually just score. They lacked that. And also Chiefs lacked another thing when they played Dylan Shepard as a right wing. Interesting. So you could see the opposite. Chiefs had all the position. They had all the play, but they could not do the one thing that's important in the game of football, which is to create and to score. In cricket, they call it a strike rate, where the amount of balls you face is divided by the amount of runs you score. Because in cricket, the scores is counted with the runs you score, right? So if you score 20 runs from 100 balls, you have a 20% strike rate. I would have been interested to see what was Kaizer Chiefs' conversion rate if they ever had one. I know it's 0. Obviously, they didn't score anything, but I would have liked to see how many chances Kaizer Chiefs actually created from my eyes. I don't have stats. It's something I need to look into. From my eyes, it wasn't a lot. I remember the penalty. There was one chance that I think Frostler had where there was a mistake by the Sundowns players, and then Frostler booted it over. I think he could have made it 2-1. He should have made it 2-1. And yeah, maybe a few others. Maybe the memory is a bit fuzzy there, but there wasn't many after that. With Sundowns, same thing. They have a lot of chances. They had about 4, and they scored all 4. Yeah. So it's one of those games for Chiefs where, as I said, it was an acid test. It was D-Day, the first time they actually face an opponent that's very superior. And for me, it was a learning curve to see where Chiefs are. They're not too far. They are behind, but it's not far. They've been further behind last season and the season before. But they are on their way up. And I say this now, unless you are a Man United fan at this particular moment as you're watching this video, you can panic. But if you're not a Man United fan, you're just a Chiefs fan, don't panic. Only Man United fans must panic because that club is in trouble. Chiefs is not in trouble. Chiefs will definitely finish a top 4. They might make some noise in one of the cups. They will improve. You're starting to see a philosophy form. You're starting to see an identity form. And you're starting to see what Coach Zwane is trying to do. And slowly but surely, it's going to rebuild that team. And they will make noise. They will not win the league this season. Don't get too excited. But I think they will definitely make a lot of noise. It's just that, how are they going to compete with the Royal AMs, the Amazulus, the Cape Town Cities? Even though Cape Town City have had a slow start, I think it's because they lost a few key players, but I think they'll come back. But there's not a lot of negativity. Yeah, you lost 4-0. It's embarrassing. Let's be honest. Regardless of when you lose it or who you lose it to, it's very embarrassing. But at the same time, it's a challenge for those players to say, you know what, this can never happen again. Never shall it be that Sundowns fans will be screaming five to their own players while we're on the field. It's not going to happen. I think that should be a motivation for those players. On the Sundowns side, I mentioned they have had a slow start, and this was the perfect game for them. It was perfect in a sense that they didn't have to play out of their socks or play extremely well. They played to a plan, and they executed the plan well. They set pretty deep to try and pull in the Chiefs' press, and they beat the press. Andile Jali was imperious. I think Jali is easily the best defensive midfielder in the country. I still wonder why a certain Hugo Bruce doesn't think so, but I don't want to get into that. It's ridiculous. I have to go there. I'm sorry. I thought I would get into it, but I can never help myself. I never think about Hugo Bruce and his team selections. It doesn't make sense to me. It never will make sense. Football-wise, anyway. Anyway, Sundowns stuck to a plan. Jali was important to them. Unfortunately, picked up a hamstring injury, but he was key to them. Another player who I thought had a good game was Gaston Sorino. Whenever he had the ball a few times, he was really effective in giving Chiefs a few problems. You started to see as the game went on. Obviously, if you score 2 goals in the first half, your confidence grows. You started to see a bit more of Zwane now. At least he looked like the Zwane we all know. Shaluli obviously got 2 goals. He's got his season up and going. And then also an impressive player that's coming from Ethiopia. I mean, I saw a bit of him against TSC Alexi. Thought, okay, there's something there. And then comes back and he scores I think a great goal, probably the best goal of the 4. He outruns Njabulong Ngcobo firstly, goes inside, takes him outside, and then bang on his left. Man, that for me, that's a great goal. I mean, that's composure. How many players have most players when they get into the 6 yard, into 18 yard, and even to the 6, they kind of, into the 16 rather, not 16, they kind of panic and they want to shoot. But this dude still had the confidence to say, nah, I'm going to dribble this guy. And he took him left and then he took it back and then on his left, bang. Great goal for me. Great goal. He looks a player. I only saw about 20-25 minutes max, but man, that guy looks a player. He looks a player. And yeah, Sundowns seem to once again have the right pieces around them. They've now signed Zungu, they've got Mukwena, they've signed Mbule. Now they've got Ronan Williams, who's kept 2 clean sheets in his first 3 games. He had a penalty save, good save, and he's really winning a lot of adulation from the Sundowns fans. Sundowns supporters were not sure. Bafana supporters were losing their minds because they thought he's not going to replace a legend of South African football in Dennis Onyango. But so far, it looks like he's very more than capable of replacing Onyango. Onyango's going to earn the shirt back. It's going to be interesting competition. So it sounds like Sundowns already have it figured out. They haven't played to their best. I still think they're like a truck in gear 1 or 2. And we know what they can do when you look at the potential in terms of if those team players start playing at their potential. Shalili gets to his potential. Zwane, if he still has it because he's a bit older, but if he plays at his potential, Mukwena plays at his potential, Jali, injury-free, plays at his potential, Zungu over time, if he gets back to the level that we're used to him, Gaston Sereno, this new striker, Abdul Nazir, if those guys play at the potential we know them to play, good luck stopping those dudes. The only thing I always tell people who have asked me this season what I think about Sundowns, I'm like, the only way Sundowns will lose this league title is if they implode. Because when you look around, yes, Royal AM have improved, other teams have improved, but over a 30-game period, Sundowns are easily the best team in the country. Royal AM will have 5, 6, 7 games, but I still think they're not good enough to win the league. Chiefs, not yet. Pirates, not yet, certainly. Cape Town City, definitely not yet. So it's Sundowns to lose again, and I maintain Sundowns have to have an implosion like they used to have before Pizza arrived to lose the league. Great game of football, by the way. Fantastic atmosphere. Didn't disappoint. One side in terms of the score, but I think Kaizer Chiefs, one thing I can say about Kaizer Chiefs is that they didn't hide. They didn't go into a shell. They kept playing, they kept going, they kept trying to get goals. There's a lot of positive stuff, but there's also a lot of concerns. And the concern would be guys like Billiard, 3-4 seasons at Chiefs, and for me, he still has never hit the levels that he hit at when he was at Sundowns. So that's a concern. Moving on to wrap up the video. Well, on Sunday, we saw Kaizer Chippa United up against Orlando Pirates at the Orlando Stadium. Orlando Pirates also, much like Chiefs, they did it differently. Now I'm going to give you a sequence. They took out a club statement. They released a lot of players, including basically the core of their back 4 or the core center backs of the club. They got rid of Mayela. They got Nyauza going, the long-term captain, Happy Jello went, Shatwai, a big signing for a couple of seasons ago, he was shown the door. So that's 3 center-backs gone. And then they brought in new ones. But they got rid of a lot of players. And then they bought new players. And after buying new players, then they brought in a coach who's never coached in Africa. He's only coached one team in his whole life. He's been an assistant most of his life, and they brought him in. Already for me, that's a spell of disaster. You're bringing in a coach who's never coached in Africa. And you've already bought in players. That to me makes no sense. When you look at Chiefs and Sundowns and other teams, the coach has a say on who must be brought in. The coach should, and I think rightly so, I think with every football club in the world, a coach should say, I don't want this guy, I want that guy. He should have a say. But the Pirates, it's never worked like that. They're still doing it. And I'm sorry, but they're stuck in the 80s if that mentality of, we will scout our own players. We will bring you in as a coach and tell you these are the players, do what you must. it's not going to win. I'm not going to blame the coach. Yeah, he has a G-string CV. Let's not lie. Let's not joke about it. It's a G-string CV. But at the same time, he has a job to do with those players. How they knew? Did they know that this coach? Did they know this coach's style of play? I don't know. I definitely don't think so. Did they know that those players that they bought would fit this new coach? I don't think so. And it was evident on Sunday that some of these players, I'm sorry, but they're not going to fit into what the coach is doing. Yeah, the coach also, he looked a bit clueless, you know. Do you blame him though? Because the guy is new to South African football. He was brought in to coach. He was coaching one of the biggest clubs in Africa, Orlando Pirates. I don't blame him. He has to take the blame because, yeah, he's the coach. But at the same time, the environment around him, does it allow him to be the best coach he can be? Does the environment around him give him the tools he needs to win? I would say for Pirates, this should be a free hit season if you want to use fantasy league terms. Let the coach come in, get his identity, get his philosophy, whatever the hell it is. After that, the coach must go out and tell the management, these players are not good enough, certain players, and the management must go, let's find you the right type of players. Then they'll start winning. Yesterday, I know they lost 1-0, and I have to say, Pirates were okay. They played okay. They created chances. They missed all of them. Lodge looked good. Hopefully, Lodge can be consistent because if he's consistent, he's easily one of the best players in the country. He's right up there with the Timbers one is in terms of position. He's right up there. Probably some argue even better if he plays consistently, but he doesn't play consistently. Zwane plays consistently. Shalu plays consistently. Jali plays consistently. Lodge doesn't. He plays well today, tomorrow not well. Well next week not well. He needs to be consistent. Equally, I don't blame him because he has to carry the whole team. And currently, the team is still finding its feet. So it's going to take a while. So again, if you're not a Man United supporter, don't panic. Pirates is not necessarily in trouble, but it's going to be a long winding season because of there's just too much that's happening in terms of bedding in new players, bedding in a new coach, bedding in a new system, a new philosophy. And the club culture is still for me, still more prehistoric in regards to football. Football is 100 and something years old. They're probably still stuck in the 70s or 80s, the way they run the football club. They run the club like it's a relegation team. And it's not what we want to see. I think it can get better. It should get better. Pirates are a club that's got a lot of history, but the way the club is run is very questionable. The way things are happening. You look at Sundowns. Sundowns haven't released a lot of players. They've got a lot. But the management and the coaches have decided to give players a shot. Come into preseason, then they'll start picking and choosing the ones they don't need for the season and the ones they want to transfer. They've already transferred Villa guys and a few others. And they're doing it one at a time. Orlando Pirates didn't have a coach, and they already had a transfer list. They had a transfer list to release players, and they had a list to bring in players. And then they brought the coach. Then this coach comes in and he's like, I don't know these guys. I don't know the culture of football. Fine, I understand the logic because he didn't know. But I think the mistake was to hire a guy who doesn't know South African football while you've already brought in players. If it was a local coach, like a Gavin Hunt or Peter Msimani or Benny McCarthy, congrats, he's at Man United now. By the way. And they failed to score last week. Anyway, if it was one of those guys, I would say it's fine because those guys have worked in the PSL. They know the structures, they know the players, they have an idea of what they need to do to get Pirates back up top. But then you brought in a European coach, which is then it contradicts what you've done. Complete contradiction. And that's where the toxic culture of some South African football teams, all the way to the national team, comes with this obsession with these European coaches. And some of these guys, for me, I don't know. I'm sorry, and I don't want to judge a coach because of what he did in his past, but it's a coaching job. Same way if I apply for a new job, what I'm doing currently, wherever I'm at, is going to be judged. We'll see if Jose Riveiro is good enough. I don't want to attack him early, but I'm more questioning the players now. And those players on Sunday let the club down. And they may continue to let the club down the way things are going right now. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Let's try hit 100 subscribers this season. Not this season, but in the next couple of weeks. This season, I'll set a new target as the season goes. It's been a pleasure. I'll be back next week.